All right, welcome to our 2:35 p.m. session on Sakai Search. Our speaker for today is Earl Meachel at Longsight. Earl's been actively involved in Sakai since 2006. He leads the Sakai core team and he serves as the release manager for Sakai. His most notable contributions include the persistence of Sakai's configuration, and when not directly working on Sakai, he is typically working on LTI tools using Scala and Play frameworks. So I'm going to hand it off to Earl.
Thanks, Wilma, and welcome everyone. Today, my co-presenter is going to be Adrian Fish as well, just to let everybody know. Yeah, let's get started. So, this session is going to involve. We're going to go into a little bit of a history. This is a little bit of a birds of a feather session, along with a bit of history first, right? So we'll do a little bit of history first, and then it's going to kind of be more of a birds of a feather session. So I'm going to ask people to, participate, which hopefully will be good. So we're going to go over a little bit of the search history in Sakai. We'll talk a little bit about the search architecture. Nothing too in depth, I promise everyone. And then we'll maybe look at what the future of search might hold. And this is where I hope get a lot of people that might want to contribute. And then we'll go on to questions. Okay. So the history of search in Sakai, Sakai has always had search, and it was always based on Lucene, and even to this day, it is still based on Lucene. It's just managed differently. Back then, it was managed. Sakai had a homegrown journaled file system, or journaled index that was stored in the database, and it would get corrupt pretty frequently. People are always complaining that it would get corrupt, and we would have you have to rebuild your indexes is not a tiny task, especially for people with lots of data. So, Elasticsearch came into the picture around Sakai 10. There was also another implementation that Sakai could integrate with, which was Apache Solr. Again, Apache Solr and Elasticsearch both use Lucene under the covers to actually do the indexing. The original Sakai homegrown indexings were moved in Sakai 11. There have been some upgrades to Elasticsearch. Then Elasticsearch probably had its first big refactor by Unicon when they allowed additional indexers. And the first one they added was one for question pools in Samigo. So whenever you're in a question pool and you do a search, that's actual search is fulfilling the search request on that. Then after that, portal search came around, which was introduced by Adrian. Then we had a couple of large big jumps upgrades from Elasticsearch 1.7 all the way to 6 and 7. And then Adrian also introduced search to be used in a tool. So the idea that instead of performing a database search for content, you can use search to search for that content inside a tool. And then came the next big really kind of milestone was the move away from Elasticsearch to OpenSearch, which if people are familiar, Elasticsearch kind of went, they changed their licensing agreements and stuff like that. A lot of that was due to Amazon, but when that happened, OpenSearch was started, and they basically took the Elasticsearch code base. So OpenSearch is Elasticsearch essentially, and but this was without the licensing restrictions. And so Sakai switched to OpenSearch in Sakai 23. And then Sakai 25 upgraded to OpenSearch 2. And which is based on Lucene 9. So that's kind of where we're currently at. We're on OpenSearch. So Sakai 25 is OpenSearch 2 with Lucene 9, and that's where we're currently at. So we'll move on. So the architecture, like I said, it's based on Lucene, always has been. Really, what OpenSearch or Elasticsearch did was it just added distributed pieces to Lucene. So, like for example, cluster like all the multiple nodes, that distributed management of indexes is all performed by Elasticsearch or OpenSearch. So traditionally, or to this day, we launch an embedded instance of OpenSearch inside Sakai, so that you don't need, any special setup or anything like that. But it's very common that people will, at an institution or something, they'll, set up a search server, and they may want to just point Sakai to use that search instance. And that's what, and that can be done. And that was thanks to, a lot of that was thanks to the REST high-level client when we moved to Elasticsearch 6.8. So how does Sakai kind of work? So we have we have search under the hood, right? We've got OpenSearch. How does Sakai do these things? Well, the way we interface with it, or the content gets digested, is through these what we call these NA content providers, and they are used to actually digest the content. That, for example, could be a PDF document, right? Could be a text document, HTML document, could be an Excel document, PowerPoint, whatever it might be, whatever the content is. The entity content provider is responsible for digesting that content. And we rely on other libraries to digest PDF, like particular formats. Content. So when someone adds a file to Sakai, the content is queued for being digested, right? So we kind of let search know, hey, this document exists. We just got it. And then search says, okay, great. I'll add it to my list of, things to be digested, right? And the digesting is where, the content is read and parsed. And that's usually where most of the work kind of happens. So it processes. So we kind of have a cap on that right now. It's about 500 docs per minute that can be processed. That's just not to, allow a node to, be tasked too much, basically. The one key thing to note, though, that is the only time that we add content to the index is if the search tool is in the site. Most people probably didn't know that. Like, if you don't add the search tool to your site, by default, out of the box, it's not searched, right? Because that's kind of like the instructor's way of saying, hey, we're not really I'm not using search in this site. So if they're not using search in the site, then we kind of turn it off, basically. If they obviously, if they add search to the site at some point, then search will get turned on, and anything from that point will get digested, right?
So Earl. So I mean, there's like there's a historical context to this, right? So I mean,
Yep.
a big part of the reason why you have to like opt into search by adding the search tool is in the past, search was like a big performance hit on Sakai instances, right? So one of the big reasons why you know some tools have search, which we'll talk about later, right? Some tools have search, some tools don't have search, right? It's because in the past, search used to really soak up the performance of your Sakai instance, right? So we made it on purpose, right? So that you opted into search by adding the search tool to your site. So that is part of the reason as well. It was a performance thing. It was where, okay, you can turn search on, everything won't get searched automatically, but if you add the search tool to a site, your content in that site will get indexed. So that is part of the reason why historically you've had to add, the search tool to a site. Sorry, carry on.
No, no, it's a good point. Good point. Um, um, so moving on, so that's kind of how search works under the hood. We have the only other thing to note is that as of like Elasticsearch 6, 6.8, when we did that upgrade, we moved to what's something called the REST high-level client. So we no longer use it. All that meant is that everything now in Elasticsearch is all performed through the REST high-level client, and that's kind of what gives us the capability to act like a true client. And it's just all we're saying there is that the operations, all the operations, including like indexing, all these things, they happen through the REST client now. There's no more transport client, which was the old way to do it. So anyway, with that, I'm gonna pass it off to Adrian. He can talk about a little bit about the user interfaces that we have
Yeah,
to search.
yeah. Thanks, Earl. Yeah. Um, just briefly though, the thing I just mentioned about the performance, right? That isn't a problem anymore, right? We've moved on. Like it's over a decade since we're having those issues with search, right? So the time has come for, and we're going to talk about this stuff later in the kind of questions section, right? Search is ready for the prime time, isn't it? So right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a quick. I'll share my screen. So can I do that? I can share. Can I share? Yes, I can. Uh, yeah, all right. Is that good? That's good. All right. So hopefully you are. You see my Chrome, right? Um so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to what is that? Yeah, allow. So can you see my Chrome, my
Not
browser?
yet,
Yeah,
Adrian. Not
please.
yet. But
Not
it's
yet.
coming.
Why is that? It should be sharing now, yeah?
Not yet.
I see it. I
Oh, you
see
do?
it. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Right.
For some
Okay,
reason, I'm
cool.
not.
All right. So what I'm gonna briefly just show you, right, is I'll show you, well, first of all, I'm gonna show you the search tool, right? So this is the search tool we've just been talking about, right? This is the search tool that historically, and I think it may still be the case, or have we enabled search across Sakai globally in master now? I'm not sure. Anyway, this is a tool that you used to have to add to a site to effectively inform the search service that you wanted your site's content indexing, right? So if I search for like bacon in here, right, I get a result, yeah. The Sakai conversations bacon, right? So if I click that, it should take me into bacon, yeah, and it has done. It's great, right? So basically what's happened there is those search terms went off to Elasticsearch. Elasticsearch came back with a result. Um, there's a way that you can write your implementation so you get a proper URL back as well from the result, right? Like a deep URL. Uh, and then that means when you click the search result, it'll take you in to the actual kind of content itself. Yeah. There's not really much more to say about the search tool, right? It's kind of basic looking, but this is what it does. You can search all your sites. You can just search this site. This is the historical search tool, yeah. What I added a while ago was I just need to move this kind of zoom ribbon out of the way, right? Yeah, okay, that's down there. That's good. So yeah, I think it's like maybe 2 years ago now. Was I added this a search web component, right? That we could just have from the top bar here. Yeah. So if you go to the top and we click on the spyglass, we get search Sakai. Yeah. Now in here, if I click eggs, I should get something really similar, right? So I'll click it, takes me into the eggs topic in conversations. And I'm going to show you this stuff in a minute, right? So you're seeing deep linking there. You're seeing search results coming back from Elasticsearch and some deep linking. Yeah, these are all things that are not that hard to implement, right? In Sakai, if you have the keys to the city, right? Which I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you now. Um, that's portal search. So we call it, Earl calls it quick search, right? Portal search, whatever you want to call it, right? It's search that's wherever you are in Sakai, it's always there. It's the kind of thing that I think a lot of people expect now in a modern application to have search constantly there, yeah. But what I did in conversations is I also added a bit of JavaScript where basically I could instrument this thing when it comes out, right? I can instrument it so that it's just searching for a tool, a particular tool's stuff, um, and it's really easy to do, right? And I'll show you in a minute. But if I click search like that, it's going to look the same. It says search conversation, so you can see the change in the title at the top, right? Click it there, search Sakai, click search in the conversations tool, search conversations, right? So that is searching the conversations tool inside the current site. If there was lots of conversations in here, right? If you had like 1,000 conversations, 1,000 topics in here, it will be useful. Obviously, at the moment, we've just got bacon and eggs, not even any beans, just bacon and eggs, right? So you can see the stuff you're going to search for anyway, but you get the idea, right? So bacon, it switches to bacon, right? There we go. Everybody likes bacon. Right. So
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't like bacon and eggs, right?
yeah, exactly. Right, exactly. You can have the vegan bacon. It's not bacon, that one. You can have that as well if you want. Right. So basically that's a whistle stop tour, right? So you've seen the search tool, which is the thing that you add in historically, which triggers search inside your site. Yeah. It was written a long, long time ago. You can kind of tell, but it works. It works. And then you've got the portal search, which looks just a little bit more cleaner, I suppose. But again, it's quite simple. There's not a lot going on in there. And then you've got the way of hooking search into a tool, which is something I added as part of conversations. Yeah. Right. So that's the demo. I'm gonna basically show you some code now, right? So I just need to work out how to stop. If I stop sharing like that, and then I share again, share my console. Yep. All right. You should be seeing my console now, yeah?
Correct.
Jolly good. Right. So I'm going to ask you to resize things a bit. Zooms in the way as usual. Right. Okay. So what I'll Zoom keeps popping things up. Get off. Get off. Right. Okay. So what I'll show you first is I'll try and hurry up because I know we haven't got a great deal of time. Right. Okay. This is the first key, right, to the search city, right? So let's just say you've written a tool, right? You've called it to-do list, right? And what you want to do is you want to index your tasks in your to-do list, right? You want to get the content into search so you can then search it, right, and get the tasks back. So the first thing you'd want to look at is this interface. So this interface is underneath the search module or tool, whatever you want to call it in Sakai. So if you go into the Sakai code /search, it's under there, right? It's part of the API, right? So this is the interface I mentioned before, right? The entity content producer, or you can call it an ECP if you want, yeah. Briefly, an entity is anything in Sakai. It can be like a task or a topic or an assignment or whatever, right? Anything that can be addressed by like a reference, by like a GUID or something, right? We call those entities, yeah. So that's why it's called entity content producer. You don't really need to know that because you can just, if you look through this interface, you've got various things which should hopefully make sense, right? Get a content reader, right? That's if you want to stream stuff. Get content, like get a string of content. Get the title of a hit, right? Of the thing you want to index, yeah. So Elasticsearch will take all these things like the title and that, and it will put them into like a JSON document, and it will put them in its index basically, right? Get URL, right? So get a URL of the thing. These are all default interfaces. So if we have some Java developers here, right, this is turning into a kind of a development kind of talk, right? It was bound to, yeah. If we have some developers here, right, you'll know that Java added this default thing onto interface. You don't have to implement all this stuff. That's what I'm saying. Like, it looks daunting, right? You look at this interface, you think, oh my God, there's so much of it, right? But you don't have to implement all these things. You just have to implement a subset a lot of the time, right? So I'll now show you what I did. So this is the conversations entity content producer, right? So this is the thing that the search service uses to grab data and to stuff it into its index, right? This is this is the key component to integrating your to-do list tool or whatever you're working on with search. Okay, right? So if you look down, you'll see, you know, this is all Spring stuff, right? Okay, so get action. That is from entity content producer, right? So I'm saying if this is an adding event, right, then let's return this action, action add. If it's deleting event, I'm saying return this action, action delete, right? Elasticsearch or search will remove something from the index if it gets one of these events, right? Scrolling down, right, we've got matches, right? We're saying, does this thing match what we want to index? And so all I'm doing is checking that. But you can see all the way down, right?
There's
I've
can
got,
read. That's your security one right there. That says
yeah,
whether or not. So like when you do a search and it comes back with all kinds of responses, um, it will look at the it'll filter it through can read to see if that user's allowed to access that or not.
yeah, exactly. So you see, I mean, basically all I've done is I've looked at that interface, right? And I've just gone through and I've implemented the bits that I want to implement, which is in fact most of it, right? And once
Yeah,
you've
but it's
implemented,
all straightforward stuff. It's all like, I mean,
yeah,
there's nothing in there that doesn't look strange.
yeah, exactly. And the whole point of this architecture is that we don't have to implement all of that logic inside search. We implement it in our tool, right? So you're writing a to-do list, right? You're focusing on a to-do list, okay? You understand the semantics of the to-do list. Your code does, right? So your code is in charge of that, and that's how this kind of interface and registration kind of mechanism works, right? Yeah, the smarts for indexing your content are in your code base for the particular tool, okay?
Yeah.
Uh, Otherwise, can you imagine, we'd have an immense search service that understood every single tool, right? And it'd be huge and unwieldy and horrific, right? Okay, I'm going to finish really soon because if you look at this is a crucial bit, right? So this is the init method for our for this producer. It's a string bean, right? So it's got an init method, but you see this. This is important, right? Don't forget to do this, right? This line here, right? Register entity content producer. If you don't register it once you've implemented it, nothing's going to happen, right? You have to tell search that here's my content producer for this tool, for this piece of functionality. Please use it, right? Um,
Well, let's wrap
really,
it up there, Adrian. So we
yeah, we'll have to wrap it up. I can, yeah, all right, fine. Yeah, so let's leave our emails at the end, right? Or Slack or whatever. I mean, if people want to ask me about how I hooked up the JS bits for launching the search sidebar, it's dead easy, and I can tell you really quickly. But Slack me. Yeah, cool.
You've got about 5 minutes still.
yeah, we're
So,
gonna go on to the next slide.
okay.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, let's go on to the next slide. Yeah, right. I will stop sharing. All right, stop sharing. There we go. Thank you.
Nice. Yes. It's so so we want to just move on now to the what the future of search, what should we do with this? To be honest, I've always thought that we've had search in Sakai for such a long time, and it was just so underutilized. There's a lot of things that we could be doing with it that would really, do lots of great things in Sakai. And I'd like to talk about some of those today. We have JIRAs for some things, as you can see here. We want to, I think, redo the UI a little bit. Um,
I think
uh,
you need to share. You need to share, Earl. You're not sharing.
oh, I'm not sharing?
No, no, you're not. No, I don't think so.
Oh, did you click on my
No,
screen or?
I was seeing your slide.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm not. That's strange. All right,
Oh, you
okay.
got to
That's
click. Yeah,
weird. Yeah.
I saw that. You have to
Oh,
click
carry
the
on, carry
tab.
on. Yeah, yeah. Ignore me. Ignore me. Ignore
Now
me.
you're on the question slide. If you want to back up, there
Yeah,
you
I'll
go.
back.
Yeah.
So like, what would we do? I mean, sure, we'll improve the UI and those kinds of things. Should we add more tools like conversations, that use search? Are there social things that we could be doing? For example, say users submit or there's activity going on in Sakai by all the users that are in Sakai, right? Could we be surfacing some of those things, like maybe students that are in the same class could, maybe we could, put some notifications about, like, your classmate just submitted to, maybe some kind of task or something, some assignment or something like that, right? There's all kinds of things that we could be doing where this data could be coming from search. So I just want to open it up to see if there's any, if there's anything that, people might uh, think of that would be good to do here. Um, Let me see. I'll check the chat. Is there anything in the chat, Wilma?
Uh, Not really. Sebastian was just asking if it was core or contrib, and it is core.
Yep.
But yes, a lot of people have it turned off because of the early historical problems that are no longer an issue. But it just kind of people didn't have the confidence to turn it on, so it's
Turn
off
it
a lot
on,
of times.
everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody, turn it on. Turn it on. It's fine. It's fine now. It is.
Yeah, it is.
So
um,
maybe you want to talk a little bit about a couple of those JIRAs, like turning search on all the
yeah,
time? Because
yeah.
that was one that was maybe a little controversial, but I'm in favor if it's not going to kill performance. So
Of course. You're still seeing my screen, right?
yeah, I'm seeing nightly.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm gonna go to the nightly server. All right. Something I'm gonna show people. Um, for the administrators out there, um, something that people may not have known is if you do come to a site with search, you'll get this additional button here, this admin button, right? Inside this admin button, um, this is one of the screens that's going to get reworked a bit because some of this stuff isn't important anymore. It's just, things have changed and these things don't really uh, shouldn't really be here. But the big thing up here is these site functions where we can rebuild the site index, right? Or we can rebuild the whole index, right? Um, if we rebuild the site index, so say an instructor had search, did not have search in their site, right? So their content was not being indexed, and maybe they come to, hey, why can't I see my why doesn't search work in conversations? It's not producing any results. Well, it could be just simply because search was not added to the site. So you go to site info, manage tools, right? Add search, but you have all this content that's in your site and you're like, well, I still can't see it. Well, and that's because the indexing began indexing when search was added. So if there was anything existing in the site, none of that's indexed. So in order to go back and sort of, let's say, well, I want to, re-index this whole site so that all the content is there. That's where you would come into this admin button and you would say rebuild the site index. This will only rebuild the index for this site. That's it. Just this one site. Of course, this button is a whole different button and it's going to rebuild all sites, right? The index for the entire system. Now, I will tell you and warn you that if you're on a Sakai system with terabytes of data, this could take days to do, right? And you should never rebuild your whole index. I would say, like during a semester. You kind of want to schedule that. If you are going to rebuild a whole index, schedule that for like summertime or some kind of time where, things are like, maybe over Christmas break or something like that, right? You don't want to do this during, you don't ever want to do this during a regular semester. Just because of how long it can take, right? But rebuilding a site index, perfectly fine to do. Not an issue. If you're in a regular, semester and this instructor's having, just added search or whatever and doesn't see, this is how you would fix that. You would come in here, click on the admin button and say, rebuild this site's index. And that's what will happen. Just know also, I'll mention one last thing is when things are added to the index. So say I go to resources and, if I add a file, let's see. Yeah, how about, there we go. So we add a file, right? And this one's called bug, right? And we go to search. You're going to see that if I do a search, you're likely not going to see it right away. Oh, well, it did come up right away. Sometimes it can take up to a minute for content to be searched. I just want people to be aware of that. That the indexer, like I said, will index. It has a queue and it runs once a minute. So sometimes if professors are really quick to like go and do what I just did, they normally need to wait like up to a minute for the content to get indexed by the indexer. That's all. But as you saw, this one was indexed pretty quickly. But I guess I could show then, like go into the admin. And if I say rebuild site index, it'll just refresh. That's all it'll do. You'll see stuff in the log if you have the log open. So what it did was it removed everything from the site's index, this site's index, and it requeued everything is what it did. And then probably started, and then it would have, we'll see if it's ready. Yep, it's already back. So that's probably just a real, just for people that didn't know and wanted to solve that issue. That might be another reason why people turn it off, because they go to search and they search and then they don't see something, to think maybe, oh, it's not working. Let me just go, I'm going to remove the tool again. I don't know. But that's not the case. It's just, the index probably just needed to be updated.
So we're just
time, right?
slightly over time. Yeah, but we do have a couple questions in the chat if you want to answer. Sebastian asks about how do you limit things to sites where users are enrolled?
Let's see. That was by Sebastian.
Yeah.
How do you accomplish so that users only ever can find stuff related to the sites they have access to? Do you filter? Oh, so yes. So when a user searches, and the search returns all the results that match that search, right? If you're inside a site, for example, doing a particular search, the site will be added as like a filter, right? To say only search in this site or whatever, right? However, what it will do is when all the content comes back, right? It takes however many it's going to show, and what it is going to do is it's going to do a security check to say, does the user have access to this item? And if they do, then it will appear, right? And if they don't, it will not appear. So whether or not a user has access to an item just depends on it. It depends on exactly that. Do they have access to that item? Some people might try to hide things through, through various ways in Sakai, but if it's truly hidden, it will not come up in search. But if it's not hidden, let's say, it's just maybe the instructor just, it made it invisible, but the content is still accessible, then search is still going to find it and allow them to access it. It's going to come up in their results, right? Because they can still access it. Exactly. The can read implementation and every ECP handles that. That's literally the security check, is that method. And I won't say that we have that, maybe we have a bug in there, right? Maybe something's being allowed because there are features that get added to Sakai regularly, but it's possible that maybe that person, when they said, like, for example, think of like conditional release in lessons, right? I want to conditionally release something in lessons. Um, um, you know, will that show up in my search results? Well, that's going to be up to the lessons ECP's can read method, right? That's where that bug would lie, is right in that method. Because maybe the person who did the feature didn't put the logic in the can read to check that. Is this a conditional item? Then, don't allow them to see it if they're not allowed to see it. Anyway, hopefully that answered that.
All right, great. All right. Well, thank you very much, Earl and Adrian. Really appreciate you guys explaining, a lot about search and how it used to work and how it works now and how it could work in the future. Hopefully, we'll be able to add some things to make it a little more user friendly. But I think the big takeaway is that people need to use it. You need to
Right.
turn it on.
Right. Use it, and if they do find some issue with it, just log a Jira. That's what you should do, right?
Yep. Yep. That's how we fix stuff, is when people use it. So thank you both. And we ran over a little bit, so just since my session is next, I'm gonna bump myself by 5 minutes so we have a little bit of a break in between in case anybody needs to get up and stretch. So it's 3:13 now. Why don't we start my session 5 minutes later? So we'll start the AI birds of a feather at 3:20 instead of 3:15. So I will see you back here in about 6 minutes. All right. And I'll go ahead and stop the recorder now.